Hello, my name is Karen Zelli and I'm the Multi-Agency Training Coordinator for Wakefield Safeguarding Children Partnership. And this session today is called Multi-Agency Safety Planning. It could also be called Smart Planning or Safety Planning with families. It will be really useful to have a pen and paper, and you can pause the session whenever you need to.
So today's learning outcomes. We want you to recognise what a safety plan is and the importance of a multi-agency approach to safety planning. We want you to be able to explain how you ensure that your safety plan is smart and what your role is within that plan. Smart means specific, measurable, achievable, realistic and time-bound. We want you to know why it's important to create a smart safety plan with families and the other professionals involved, and with is that key word there. We're going to just start by looking at the golden rules of information sharing. The document on the screen is guidance for practitioners and was published in July 2018. The General Data Protection Regulations and the Data Protection Act 2018 and human rights laws are not barriers to justified information sharing. They provide a framework. And if you have a child protection concern about a child or young person and it would put them at risk by discussing that concern with parents or carers, then you can make a referral in without speaking to parents first, referring to social care. But being honest and open from the outset of a relationship with a family is one of the key factors of building good relationships. So if you can talk to parents about any concerns, then it's best to do that first. So seek advice from management if you need to, and where possible, share information with consent. When you're working with families at a lower level that's not statutory, you must have consent to share information with other practitioners. You may need to explain to families why you want to share their information and gather information from other practitioners. You need to consider the safety and well-being of the children and young people. And the key phrase for me is that the information sharing should be necessary, proportionate, relevant, adequate, accurate, timely and secure. You need to keep a record of your decisions and the reasons for it, whether that is to share information or your decision is that you're not going to share information.
What is a safety plan? A safety plan is a plan developed with a family at all stages of concern, whether that be early help, child in need or child protection, so that everyone involved understands what needs to change and their role in achieving the change. Again, we've got that word with. It's about doing it with people, not doing it to people. The plan is most effective when everyone who knows the family and our children, including the family members, participate and communicate together to make sure that any plan developed is agreed and effective. It's no good putting a plan in place that is not agreed by the family, because it just won't happen. Equally, you can't give practitioners roles within a plan if they haven't agreed to do that. All partners need to take responsibility for some aspect of the plan, and they need to regularly communicate with other partners and family members, sharing their perspective on progress and any concerns. But that's not to say that you wait for a meeting before you talk about a concern that you've got to the family. If there's a concern that you've got about something that either hasn't happened or has happened, it's important that you speak to the family at the time. Don't wait 3 weeks and then bring it up in a meeting. Address it as it happens and then deal with it. And yes, you might need to feed back to the meeting what's happened, but you don't wait for the meeting to actually do that. Principles of safety planning. The key principles are partnership working, information sharing and cooperation. These are absolutely essential if we're going to create a safety plan that's going to work. Effective planning for families relies upon local organisations and agencies working together. Working together is absolutely key. 2 of our training courses are called Working Together. We need to work together to identify children and families who would benefit from help and support, and we need to do this early. Getting in there early identification is again absolutely key. We need to identify and have a clear understanding of the concerns, issues, needs of the children and families. We need to recognise what needs to happen to make a difference and to improve the outcomes for the child or the children. And we need to work with children and families and the professionals involved to identify who can support them to achieve these outcomes. Again, with. And anybody who is working with children should see and speak to the child. They need to listen to what that child says. They need to take their view seriously, and they need to work with them and their families collaboratively when deciding how to support their needs.
So what makes a good safety plan? This is where you need your pen and paper. I'm just going to ask you to write 3 things down, and I'm going to only give you about 10 seconds. What makes a good safety plan? Okay. My 3. Participation. Participation means contributing and sharing and being involved. It means taking part, having active involvement, sharing views, ideas, knowledge and opinions, and working together to an agreed goal. Absolutely essential. Empowerment. Authorising people to be part of the process, give power to them, make them powerful. Practitioners have power, but it can be a style of working, how you actually interact with people. We want to enable children and families to take part. It's their meeting. We want them to help define their goals and outcomes. We want to ask what is relevant to them. We need to give them a voice and ownership of a plan, and we need to listen. Partnership. That means communication, collaboration and relationships. When 2 or more people working together to achieve the same goals and objectives. It's multi-agency working. It is an open process. Participation, empowerment and partnership should underpin all work with families.
So now to think some more about participation. To ensure participation, we need to start by building on the family's strengths. What's working well in that family? Is it that they've got a good support network? Have they got grandparents who are very, very supportive? Do they have good bedtime routines? Or is it that they're registered at the dentist, are the children? They're all positives. If we start with the positives, then we can start to look at what needs to change. We need to also understand what the family want and what they think needs to change, and that needs to be part of the plan. We need to help the family understand what professionals are worried about. We wouldn't be having a meeting if professionals weren't worried. So we need to be clear with families about why we're worried and what needs to change to ensure that the worries go away. We need to ensure that families know their rights and responsibilities, and we need to avoid jargon, particularly in meetings, because it's sometimes very difficult for families, for parents, to put their hand up and say, what do you mean? It's difficult for professionals to do that sometimes. We need to be open and honest about the concerns and about our responsibilities. We all have our own responsibilities and remit. Health have responsibility, education have a responsibility, but parents have equally got a responsibility. So we need to ensure that they are aware of those. We need to allow families time to understand what the concerns are and process these, and what the processes are about these concerns. So it's good for them to understand what's going to be discussed in the meeting prior to a meeting, so that they don't get something in the meeting that they're unsure about. They should have an understanding of what's being said in the meeting. It's important to distinguish between our personal feelings and values and our professional roles and responsibilities. And we need to acknowledge if a mistake or misunderstanding is made, and we need to explain that, because professionals make mistakes just like parents do, and it's no good trying to hide that. It's important to say, look, I got this wrong. We're going to talk a little bit more about empowerment and what empowerment is. It's the process of increasing the capacity of individuals or groups to make choices and to transform those choices into desired actions and outcomes. This is what we want and need parents and carers and young people to do. So we need to empower them. It gives somebody the power or authority, and it makes people more confident or assertive. We want them to be able to say to us in a meeting, I can't do that. I need some help to do that. Oh, yes, I can. I will. That is when we have confidence, and then we get an increased self-esteem from parents when they see that they've achieved something as well. So moving on to partnership. We need to ensure that we have a partnership when we're working with families. We need to treat them with dignity and respect. And if we treat them how we would want our family to be treated, it's always a good starting point. We have to build a relationship. A relationship is not built in an hour. It's not built in one session. It takes some time. We need to prioritise the welfare of the child and listen to the children. We can't let parents or carers hijack us to talk about their issues constantly. We need to keep that focus on the children and about the effect that the parents' issues are having on the children. We need to respect the privacy of families, and that needs to be balanced with the need to intervene. And we need to be clear about the basis of our intervention. Why are we involved with this family? What is it that we're trying to achieve? We need to know that ourselves so we can share that information with families. We need to be aware and sensitive to the impact of the power our role as a professional carries. All professionals have a hierarchy to parents, and parents will see professionals as somebody who is more important than them. We need to respect confidentiality. There are some things that a parent might tell you that don't need to be shared with everybody. Clearly, if it's a child safeguarding issue, it will be shared, and you can never say to a parent that you will not share information, because if you have a concern about the information that they tell you, you then have to have a duty to pass that on. Again, it's about being open and honest about that. We need to listen to family members and understand what their fears and concerns are. What are they worried about? And we need to learn about the family in the context of their own community.
So when does a family need a safety plan? If you have a concern about a child or family, the first thing to do is speak to them about it. And when you're talking to families, it's important to be patient and calm. It's important to listen carefully to the child, to the children, and the parents or carers. And you need to let them describe the challenges that they are facing. Don't try to investigate or quiz the child, parent, or carer, but make sure you do understand what they're saying. Find out what the child and their family would like to happen. Ask them what they want to improve about the situation. Ensure that you use non-judgmental language. and you reassure the child and family that they can get support to move forward with their lives. Agree on the next steps with the child, young person and family. Early intervention and collaboration. Explain to families about the importance of talking to other professionals that are involved with them and working together to support them. Having a collaborative approach is key to making sure children and families receive the right help at the right time. Make sure that you work proactively with the other organisations to identify children and families in need of support and help them access the services that they need. It says on the slide at the bottom right, it's not rocket science. Any professional working with the family can create a family safety plan, a SMART plan, a support plan. So some children and young people that may benefit from early help. Anyone that's displaying disruptive or antisocial behaviour. Anyone being bullied or is bullying others. Anybody with a poor attendance at school. Usually poor attendance is measured at under 80%. Anybody involved in or at risk of offending. Anybody with general poor health. Anybody that's got anxiety, depression or other mental health issues. Anyone using drugs or alcohol. Anyone having a particularly challenging relationship with parents or appearing to be unusually or independent from their parents. Anyone experiencing difficulties at home such as domestic abuse, parental substance abuse or parental mental health problems. Some groups of children may be likely to need early help more than their peers, and these include children who have been excluded from school, who have special educational needs, who are disabled, who are in care, who are leaving or preparing to leave care, young carers, young parents or those who are about to become young parents, and those who are experiencing housing issues. So, who is responsible for creating a safety plan? The person doesn't need a particular qualification, and there certainly isn't a qualification that I'm aware of in creating a safety plan. They also do not have to be an expert in everything. They will have expertise in their fields, but they don't need to know everything. It's not automatically the person who initiated the original concern. They may not be the best person placed to create that plan. The person creating the plan is not responsible or accountable for the actions by other practitioners or services, but they will have support mechanisms in place to help resolve some of the issues. The person will not be expected to work outside their usual remit, and they do not become responsible for the needs of the entire family. They usually are working with the family, but a key factor is they usually have the right approach and the family like them and get on with them. The right approach, what does that mean? Where do we need you to be? Sit down, shut up and do as you're told. Do we think that's the right approach? Whatever. Who cares? Is that the right approach? No, we need somebody right in the middle that's respectful, calm, and is able to give some firm guidance when required. Ask some tough questions. How do we create an effective safety plan? We make it smart. We make it a support plan. Specific, measurable, achievable, and agreed. Realistic and time-bound or timely. Specific. So what does that mean? It means the objective is concrete, it's detailed, it's focused and well defined. Some of the questions that you might ask yourself when you're setting your goals and objectives are: what exactly do we want to achieve? What needs to change? Who is responsible for what in the plan? How, when, with whom? What do we have to do to get there? And what could prevent us from getting there? Measurable. What does this mean? It means the plan should set out what success would look like and what are the steps to getting there. How will life be better for the child or children when the plan starts to work? And what will we see that is different? How will we know? It's important that families really understand what needs to change, and the changes need to be mapped to the goals set within what the concerns are. So to determine if your objective is measurable, you need to ask questions such as: what will we see when the change has occurred? What is the trajectory for change? And when do we expect to see change?
Achievable or agreed. It's important to be clear on who is accountable for tasks and to be clear on whether they have agreed to their action. As I said earlier, it's not the role of the lead professional to be accountable for all the actions on the plan. And it's also important that anybody who isn't in the meeting is not expected to do an action without agreeing first, and that includes parents and carers. We need to consider, can it be done in the time frame that meets the needs of the child or children? What might be the barriers to achieving the change that is necessary for the child or children? And have we considered the barriers, and does the plan attempt to address these?
Realistic. To be realistic, it must be something which the family understand and they are willing to work towards. Realistic does not mean easy, but for the objective to be realistic, everyone needs to understand the objective and they need to understand how it's going to be achieved. The plan needs to be robust, and all points within the plan need to be relevant to the aim of the plan. The needs of the child or children, young people, are paramount. Ask these questions when considering if your plan is realistic. Do the family agree with the plan? Have you checked that out with them? But do they really agree? Or are they just saying that they agree? Does everyone understand their part of the plan? Are there any barriers? Time-bound or timely? This means stating clearly when the changes will be achieved on the plan. Children should not live in circumstances which are not safe and nurturing, and making changes quickly is important for their well-being now and in the future. Agreeing when we will see a difference with families is important, and deadlines create a sense of urgency, but they also make it clear when something needs to be done in the interests of the child or children. So ask yourself, are there clear timeframes attached to the actions, e.g. are there specific dates? What we wouldn't want on a plan is ongoing. If this is not achieved, have you agreed what will happen? And who will ensure it happens? Are there other actions which will depend upon the completion of this action? What could stop change? How can you mitigate these if there is a concern? So what does a safety plan look like? This is an example of a safety plan. This is an early help plan. The boxes on the plan are: what is the outcome required? So what do we want to achieve? The measure of success. How do we know if things have improved? Action. How will we achieve this outcome? And sometimes you might need several actions to achieve an outcome. Who's responsible? So who will make sure this happens? That could be a practitioner, it could be a child or young person, it could be a parent or carer. By when? And it says put a date, not ASAP. Progress and review. So there's a box there to record any progress made. Has it been completed or partially completed? You can use this plan when you are working with families and you want to create a safety plan for them. This is another safety plan, SMART plan, and this one's from social care. So the boxes on this plan are identified need for the child, where you record what the needs are, how the need will be met, so what actions will need to be taken to meet the identified need. Who will do this? By when? And how will we know things are better? What will be different? Now, what I'd like you to do now is to use one of those two templates to create a SMART safety plan for a child, young person, family who you are working with. This will give you some good practice for when you come to do one in a meeting with a family. And that's the end of the presentation. Thank you for listening. Please leave us some feedback, and there's 3 ways to do this. You can leave comments in the section on YouTube. You can email your comments or your feedback to wscpevents@wakefield.gov.uk. And we've also added our feedback form, which we would typically give out in face-to-face training, to our website. And you can download that form, fill it in, and email it back to us if that's what you prefer to do. I have also been creating a quick guide to SMART planning, safety planning. So if you send in some feedback to our events inbox and request a copy of the SMART planning, safety planning guide, we will send that out to you within the next 2 weeks. Thank you again, and goodbye.